So here we are in Healdsburg Plaza. Today we're actually going to take you on a driving tour of Healdsburg. And obviously everyone knows that Healdsburg is famous for its food and wine. In fact, recently earlier this year, 2025, it was voted by USA Today magazine as the best small town in the west of California. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off here in the plaza, and we're going to do initially a tour of Healdsburg City, but we're also going to take you to some more rural parts of Healdsburg, because one of the things that many people grapple with when they're looking to either buy a place here or move and relocate to Healdsburg is whether they should be looking to buy within the city limits or buy somewhere sort of more rural. So today we're going to show you both, talk about the pros and cons, and also dive into some of the specific neighborhoods that you might be considering if you're looking at buying in Healdsburg. So let's get on with it. I'll jump in the car and we'll head off. So we're going to start off the driving tour by going down Matheson, which is what we're on now. And one thing about Matheson is if you are looking for a place in downtown, obviously you're right close to the plaza, and the houses on this particular street, as well as Tucker, which is just over to my right, probably considered the best street in Healdsburg. The houses here are definitely a little bit bigger, and also the homes they're just on bigger lots. The downside of Matheson is it does lead, and we'll be going all the way down it, to Fitch Mountain. So it tends to be a slightly busier road than a road such as Tucker over to the south side. And the other great thing about Matheson, I mean, it's so pretty in the spring because it has just so many different cherry blossom trees. So it's really beautiful as you're driving down it. And where we're about to head now it's pretty much turning into South Fitch Mountain Road about here. And if I just turn off over to my left here, this is Greens Drive. And the great thing about Greens Drive is the homes are built more in the sort of 80s and 90s, but you really can get a lot of house for your money considering how close you are to the plaza. Because they're not the historic homes that you get in the Character 1 area, which is closer into the plaza. But you can definitely get a decent sized house, 2,500 square feet for 1.5 million on a really decent sized lot. So continuing down Matheson, the next area we're going to go to is, sort of nickname the birds, because all of the streets have got bird names. So you've got Hummingbird, you've got Falcon, you've got Canary. Yeah, there's lots of bird streets. So turning onto Heaven Drive here. And down here, the interesting thing about these homes is they do have an HOA. They're not limited in age, not like the 55 plus community that we're going to be going to shortly, but they do have a clubhouse with a pool. So it's definitely a good option if you are looking to be relatively close to town, but also just want the benefit of a pool without obviously having to build your own pool. So here we are turning on to Canary. In fact, a client of ours just purchased a home here on Canary, and a lot of these homes at this end, they actually back onto the park right by the river, which is obviously a really, really great benefit from these homeowners. So yeah, continuing down on South Fitch Mountain Road, and on the left-hand side here, we've got the golf course. It's a great 9-hole golf course, actually designed by Alistair Mackenzie, who, interestingly enough, also designed Augusta, one of the premium golf courses in the US. On the right-hand side, just here, we've got Almond Way, which is also a really great street. No HOA there, a really great street. And then we're coming to 3 different 55 plus communities here. So we've got Riverview, which is the first one, and then we've got Riverside, and then we've got Rivers Bend, which is the last one, and also the oldest one. So this is Riverside we're coming onto here. All of these homes in these 3 different developments, they all have slightly different HOAs actually, but they have a clubhouse, they've all got a pool, and there's 2 types of properties here which are the most sought after. We've got the ones at the end that are on Orchard on this particular section, and then on the next community over, we've got Pinon Drive, which also highly sought after, just because all of these ones on the left-hand side here, they all back onto park with easy access to the river, easy access to Badger Park. So these houses here, you can expect them to range between 850,000 up to as high as 1.3 million for something that's been totally remodeled these days. They've actually appreciated really well over the last few years. And then most of the homes here are 2-bed. There are some 3-bed, but generally 2-bed, 2-bath. And yeah, it's a really great community for the 55 plus and older. So that's the end of the 55 plus community. So what we're now going to do is head over to Hidden Acres, and we'll show you some of the sort of bigger properties up on Hidden Acres. So we're driving up here on Hidden Acres, and one of the things that characterises Hidden Acres is you're still relatively close to town, probably a mile and a half, but you can definitely get homes up here which are on pretty big lots, as well as being, very sizable homes. And it's definitely one of the sort of, the key higher end neighborhoods close to town, which isn't in downtown. And there's a number of homes here that have sold relatively recently. In fact, there's one up here on the left-hand side, which sold for well over 4 million. And that was last year. And then all of these homes on the left-hand side here, they're actually all back onto the golf course. So if you are a keen golfer, it's a great neighborhood to belong to. And there's actually a cut through, so you can actually cut through onto the golf course. And then we just turned into Coglan here. We actually just sold this house earlier this year, 604 Coglan. Again, it's a decent sized house on 1/3 of an acre, and yet you're still really close to town. And as you can see, a lot of the homes up here are a little more elevated, so some of them actually do have really great views out to the west. We're still on South Fitch Mountain Road, and here we're actually now driving out of city limits into the community and area that is called Fitch Mountain. And a lot of people think that Fitch Mountain is actually part of Healdsburg, and obviously it's still in the 95448 zip code. All the houses on Fitch Mountain aren't on city services. So there's actually a mutual water company. So everyone shares in what is essentially a big well. And then all of the houses have septic systems. So yeah, it's a bit more complicated, just, more like a rural home, but you're still very close to Healdsburg. Back in the day, Fitch Mountain was the real place where the sort of, the great and the good of San Francisco used to have their second homes and their cabins on the river. So all of the houses on my right-hand side here, all back onto the river, got river access. And if you like the sort of river lifestyle, but still want to be right in Healdsburg, as it were, then it really is a great option. Getting insurance in Fitch Mountain is particularly difficult. Well, it's not difficult, it's just you will be on fair plan because of the nature of Fitch Mountain. It's there's a lot of forested areas, a lot of the homes are up on a hill, which are two obviously red flags for insurance companies when it comes to getting insurance. But everyone can get insurance because there's the California Fair Plan, which is the insurer of last resort. But just be aware, it will be considerably more expensive than buying a home within Healdsburg city limits. And as you can tell, quite a few of the roads as we drive around here, they are quite sort of smaller roads, narrow roads, but some of the cabins, particularly those on the river, are really cool. So if that's the sort of vibe that you're looking for, but still want the best of all the amenities that Healdsburg has to offer, then Fitch Mountain is definitely a community worth looking at. So one of the other things worth bearing in mind is there are actually a lot of existing vacation rentals in Fitch Mountain. For anyone who's buying a home here, you would not be able to get a vacation rental permit immediately because there is a cap zone around Fitch Mountain, which is a 5% cap. The 5% cap means that the county won't allow a greater than 5% density of vacation rentals. However, the interesting thing to know about Fitch Mountain is it's actually only currently, I think it's 6 or 7%. So it would probably only take 2 or 3 homes to actually sell here that are operating as vacation rentals for a new home to be able to qualify, or a new home buyer, should I say, to be able to qualify to get a vacation rental permit. So if that did go below the 5% level, then that would definitely be a highly sought after property for somebody else to start a new vacation rental so close to Healdsburg and yet within the river community of Fitch Mountain. So we're now coming off Fitch Mountain and we're back within the city limits. So houses again are on full city services. And over to my right, I mean, the views are quite spectacular over to the west. So one of the things that quite a few of the houses here, and particularly on some of the roads that go off North Fitch Mountain Road, is they do have the benefit of being, again, you're pretty close to town, but you can get, you know, bigger homes with spectacular views, which again, finding homes within the city limits that have a great view is really, really tough. So on the left-hand side here is a road called Revel Road. We actually sold a listing there last year, which looked out over the golf course. So this is now the north end, the north side of the golf course. So this road we're on here is Borrell Road, and a lot of the homes here, again, they have spectacular views. This is actually a non-through road, so super private, and we're actually selling a lot here at the moment, which is just on the right-hand side. But literally over to my left, you've got Samantha Court, and some of the houses, again, it's a cul-de-sac, but some of the houses, they really do have spectacular views. So if you are looking for something on a slightly larger lot with views within the city limits, you've got very few options, but this is definitely one of them. So North Fitch Mountain Road turns into Powell Avenue. And I always consider Powell Avenue the sort of northernmost limit of downtown Healdsburg. As soon as you get over the other side of Powell onto roads on my right-hand side, you definitely see prices a little lower. And then, for example, here you've got Sunnyside Drive on my right-hand side. I had a client who just purchased a home there. And you know, for 1.5 million, you can definitely get a sort of 2,000 plus square foot home. So I've turned now into an area that I call the Lanes, and it's called the Lanes because like a lot of the roads are something lane. So Florence Lane, Josephine Lane. And if we're coming to the end here, we've got Bianca Lane. You know, the houses on Bianca Lane, far side, are just facing straight ahead of me here, all back onto the cemetery. So it's definitely, you know, backed onto green space, and definitely you won't get any trouble from the neighbours out the back of your house. And then the houses here, again, they tend to be, you know, 3-bed, 2-bath. To be honest, some of the remodeled houses here these days are going for, you know, 1.4, 1.5. And then there are some homes which have been like significantly improved for the area. So I've just turned onto Whitegates Avenue, and there's a couple of homes at the end here which, you know, well over $2 million. There's one on the left-hand side here, which a client of ours purchased a couple of years ago. They literally knocked it down and rebuilt a brand new home. And then the home here, which is 554 Sherman, a client of ours has just purchased, and that was well over $2 million. So this area is definitely a real up-and-coming area, super easy to walk to. You can walk to town, walking through Georgie Park, which is a great little park to enjoy. It's got pickleball courts, great place to hang out with the kids. So now we're going to turn back onto Powell Avenue, and one of my favourite sandwich places in the whole of Healdsburg is here on the right-hand side, Summers Market, which has just opened again, actually. They serve fantastic pulled pork sandwiches, they smoke all their own meat, they do great salads. So yeah, if you are looking for somewhere to buy a sandwich, like not in the immediate downtown, definitely check out Summers Market on Powell Avenue. So we've turned onto Healdsburg Avenue, heading north. On the left-hand side here, we have the Healdsburg High School. And then just a little bit further up here, we'll come to a community called Fitch Mountain Villas. So now we're heading over March Avenue, and on my right-hand side here is where we've got the Fitch Mountain Villas community. One of the roads here is Fieldcrest Drive, and in fact on this particular road, I think it's one of the most expensive properties on Fieldcrest Drive, which we represented year before last. And this community, it's a really tight-knit community actually. They do have a lot of amenities. They've got a pool, They've got pickleball courts, a very active HOA. The HOA looks after all of the landscaping. It's got beautiful trees everywhere. So they really do a great job. All the houses here tend to be probably, 14 to 1800 square feet. A lot of them 3-bed, 2-bath. There's definitely homes that are slightly bigger than that as well. And a lot of them do open onto green space, which is really nice. So now turning right onto March Avenue. Again, this is still Fitch Mountain Villas. As you see, it's definitely tree-lined boulevard style. And we're going to carry on all the way down March Avenue and head towards Healdsburg Avenue, which is where we'll see Big John's, which, if you know anything about Healdsburg and you've been shopping for groceries, you'll definitely know Big John's Market. I'm on March Avenue, and over to my right, there's a number of dentists, opticians, and then over on my right is the Healdsburg Hospital, which is a great community hospital. I mean, it's got a great A&E department. Sad to say I've been in there myself. If you want something more serious and you want more medical facilities, then most people would head down to Santa Rosa and go to the sort of Sutter or Kaiser hospitals down there. But yeah, it's great that Healdsburg's got its own community hospital. So here we are on Healdsburg Avenue. And one of the things about Healdsburg Avenue, you can probably see it's currently a 5-lane road. And starting later this year, they're going to be doing a lot of the utilities under the road and replacing them. But that's all part of a bigger project, which is called the Healdsburg Avenue Improvement Project, whereby they're actually going to take it down from 5 lanes down to 2 car lanes, and then 2 lanes which are going to be for both pedestrian and cyclists, but separated physically from the traffic, which is fantastic because it does make this part of Healdsburg much more connected to downtown Healdsburg, particularly for pedestrians or cyclists. This whole street is going to be transformed. It's going to do planting like so many different trees and put in a lot of traffic calming measures to create a much more, just a safer environment for both pedestrians and cyclists. And then the other thing about this part of town is it's also undergoing a massive transformation, because further up here we've got Montage, which I'm sure many people would have heard of as a new, it's a couple of years old now, very much a sort of resort hotel with homes that people can purchase, but they're $4, $5, $6, $7 million. A fantastic hotel, spa, restaurant. And then also up here we have a new development on the left-hand side, which includes Enzo, which is a aging in place community run by a combination of both Quakers and Buddhist monks, which is an interesting combination. And then also up here we have the Hotel Appellation, which is a new hotel which is opening later this year, and that's a Charlie Palmer hotel, which is going to be with food very much at the centre of it. I think when you walk in the main reception area, you'll literally be walking into the restaurant, and a lot of the hotel rooms are all sort of separate structures on the property. So I've now turned on to Parkland Farms Boulevard. Parkland Farms is actually the newest big subdivision in Healdsburg. A lot of the homes were built in the 2000s, and originally there were 272 lots. And Parkland Farms is definitely, it's definitely very family friendly. A lot of the homes here are 3, 4, and there's even some 5-bedroom homes. Some of them have sort of guest units above the garage. And the great thing about Parkland Farms, it is connected into a lot of the hiking trails on Healdsburg Open Preserve. And the great thing as well, particularly for Parkland Farms residents, is that Healdsburg Open Preserve is actually going to connect with the new Saggio Hills Park, which is being created sort of just next door to Montage. So we've just turned into Stirrup Loop, and at the end of here is Arabian Way. I think definitely of all the areas in Parkland Farms, these are probably the nicest homes. A lot of them, ones on the right hand side, back onto open space. So yeah, you can typically get a 3-4 bedroom home here between $850 and some of them go up to as high as 1.3, 1.4 million these days. So yeah, it's a really great family friendly neighborhood. Definitely worth taking a look. If you want something You know, it's a little bit further out of town, but you've just got so many great amenities on your doorstep with, you know, the hiking trails, and then obviously all the new developments around Hotel Appellation. You'll soon have a hotel, as well as going to be new retail outlets, which can be part of the Comstock development, which is also part of the development that's got the Hotel Appellation and Enzo. So yeah, there's definitely going to be a huge change in this part of town, not least making it more connected into downtown Healdsburg with the Healdsburg Avenue Improvement Project I was talking about a moment ago. So we've now turned on to Chiquita, which is an interesting road because this is where we leave Healdsburg city limits. But before we leave Healdsburg city limits, we're going to go turn left onto a road called Shapley. And again, if you are looking to live within Healdsburg city limits, but want a property that is, you know, a larger property on a larger lot, then Shapley, Burgundy, there's a couple of roads here which should definitely be worth considering. I mean, I have to say, there's not that many homes that come up on the market on these particular roads, although recently there have been a couple. And one of them was on Shapley, which I'm turning left into now, and it was priced at 2.88 million and is actually already in contract. And then if we turned right there instead of left, we'd have turned into Burgundy. And again, there was a house there for sale that was on the market for 3.8 million, and that's already in contract as well. So this area is definitely pretty unique because it has got a very sort of, you know, it's got a rural feel, still very much a neighborhood, but some of the properties are on, you know, half an acre, and yet you're still on city services. So definitely a really sort of nice leafy neighborhood. But as I said, they don't often come on the market. So if you do like this neighborhood, then you literally have to book early to avoid disappointment, as the saying goes. So this is the house, we're just turning around here, and this is the house which has just gone into contract on Shapley. So now we're heading further up Chiquita, and now we are truly out of Healdsburg city limits. So this area actually used to be a really popular area for people who were looking for a vacation rental close to Healdsburg city limits, because obviously you aren't allowed to operate a vacation rental in Healdsburg city unless you have a very specific sort of commercial zoning for the property. But Chiquita Road, I personally feel, is one of my favourite roads, just because it's definitely, you've got the rural feel. It feels very much like you're in wine country, and yet you're so close to downtown and everything that Healdsburg city has got to offer. So over to my left, there's properties that go back, you know, quite a long way. If you go all the way, you sort of head back towards Dry Creek Valley, which is where we're headed. But there really are some spectacular properties over to my left on, you know, 10 acres plus with, you know, very much vineyard estate homes. As we continue down Chiquita Road, we'll hit Lytton Springs Road, and we'll take a left there, and it will take us through to Dry Creek Valley. So we're just coming up here to the end of Chiquita Road. I'm going to turn left into Lytton Springs Road. On the right-hand side is a winery called Ridge, which actually does a really great, it's called a field blend. So a field blend is a vineyard that's full of loads of different varietals. They don't actually know what they all are, but they just pick them all and chuck them into a bottle, and it's called a field blend. Their field blend is actually really, really good. So here we are on Lytton Springs Road. Again, a really, really pretty road, feels very rural. Again, one of the things that's worth noting here, if any houses do come up on the market, then a lot of the homes here would actually be eligible for vacation rental. Unfortunately, very few ever come up. So if you are looking for a vacation rental, then do get in touch, because we actually have a private website where we post every property in the county that is eligible to be operated by as a vacation rental by a new buyer. So that is something of interest, buying an investment property, then we can definitely help you out. So we're coming to the end of Lytton Springs Road, and now I'm going to turn right onto Dry Creek Road. And when we head up here on the left-hand side, then we have the single thread farm. So single thread probably Healdsburg's most famous restaurant, Michelin star, one of the best restaurants in the US. They actually have their own farm and farm shop where you can go and buy produce from the single thread farm. And then further up here on the right hand side, then we have the Dry Creek General Store. And if you are ever in Dry Creek looking for something to eat, they do fantastic sandwiches. The only thing I would say is, particularly if you're at the weekend, you will definitely have to wait a little while for the sandwich, but it's definitely worth the wait. And they also have a bar which has now been reopened, which is very much a sort of locals bar to hang out in the evening. If you go in there, pretty much most nights you'll see a lot of the farmers from the vineyards just hanging out there, having a pint and chewing the fat. So yeah, this is the Dry Creek General Store, definitely an icon within Dry Creek Valley. And now we're going to turn left onto Lambert Bridge Road, which is the connecting road that runs between Dry Creek Road and West Dry Creek Road. It's got a super cute little bridge that will go over, and on the left hand side here we've got Dry Creek Vineyard, and then we've got Passalaqua on the right hand side. And as we come down here, we're heading over Lambert Bridge. So here we are going over Lambert Bridge, which I do think is one of the coolest bridges around. And even though obviously we live here, then as you can imagine, you never get bored of taking in this scenery. And I do feel very lucky to be able to live and work in this particular area. And in fact, talking about Lambert Bridge Winery is actually one of the wineries that I'm a member of. I'm a huge fan of it. They do some amazing events. In fact, if you are interested in knowing which wineries have the best events, then we have got a video all about the top wineries and the top wine events in wine country. So definitely check out the link. We'll put it in the description below. And Lambert Bridge was definitely one of those wineries which a lot of people actually join the winery for their events. I mean, their wine is fantastic as well, but you know, they have events which are truly spectacular, and it's a really great community. And that is the other thing about wine country, is it's so easy to meet people by taking part in, you know, whether it's events that wineries are putting on or events that the city of Healdsburg is putting on. I do think it's probably one of the best towns in Sonoma County when it comes to, you know, hosting events for the community and the community putting events on for the community. So one of the things as we drive around, you'll notice a lot of the vineyards have roses growing next to them. And the reason for that is no coincidence. They actually plant roses as part of organic pest control. I mean, obviously it's great for the vines because it protects the vines, but it also makes it beautiful driving past vineyards, particularly at this time of year when all the roses are in such spectacular colour. So we're just at the end of West Dry Creek Road, and I'm going to turn right here, and on the right hand side we have the Hotel Madrona, which is actually a really great place to go and eat. They've got a really great bar, they've got a great porch, a great place to hang out and have a drink. But up here, a whole bunch of homes. They have a West Side Road address, but they're actually a little bit off West Side Road. Again, this is one of those areas that is so close to Healdsburg City. Again, you're still in rural Healdsburg, but the homes here get spectacular views across the valley. As you can see, we're gaining some elevation here, and there are homes here which are on, you know, 1, 2, 3 acres. And for somebody who's looking for, you know, rural living but close to Healdsburg City, the homes up here are a great option. And it's probably just worth me saying that Healdsburg City is, I think it's about 4 square miles, and the population is just under 12,000 people, whereas the whole of Healdsburg, the zip code 95448, is actually 184 square miles. So that just gives you an indication of how much rural Healdsburg there is. But obviously a lot of people don't want to live, you know, miles and miles and miles away from Healdsburg City. So pockets of homes like this that we're just driving through here, they solve the problem that a lot of people look for, is how can I live somewhere rural but at the same time be close to city limits. So we've now come at the end of West Dry Creek, passing Walt and Backer Winery on our left. So we're now on West Side Road, heading back towards Healdsburg city. And one of the neighborhoods I'm going to turn into next is a whole series of roads such as West North, West Matheson, and there's a whole pocket of roads here which is just to the west of the freeway, which are sort of classic, ranch homes, a lot of them 3-bed, 2-bath homes. And again, you're so close to Healdsburg city, and very unusually, a lot of these homes would actually be eligible to be vacation rented. I know there's a couple of very high performing vacation rentals in this area. Again, they don't come up very often, but it's one of the few pockets around Healdsburg where you can still get a eligible property for a new buyer to operate it as a vacation rental. So this is West Matheson. A lot of the roads, West Matheson, West North, they're just, they're almost continuations of Matheson and North Street in downtown Healdsburg, but the other side of the freeway. But there is no way to get across the freeway unless you go back onto West Side Road under the bridge. But again, it's a really great little neighborhood for somebody who wants a little bit more space, but still super close to downtown Healdsburg. The obvious disadvantage is you've got the freeway noise, which is on my left-hand side here. So we're just on Kinley Road, and Kinley Road runs all the way along the freeway, all the way up to Dry Creek Road, which is obviously where Big John's is and Dry Creek Valley starts. So we're now just going to turn left onto West Side Road and head under the freeway, and we will be back in downtown Healdsburg. And if you've ever come into Healdsburg, you probably recognise this roundabout we're coming up to. On the left-hand side are a lot of sort of, more everyday shops, so Safeway's there, and a lot of like the Verizon store, a couple of good sort of local Mexican restaurants. And then I'm going to turn right here, and on my right hand side there's actually a new sort of retail development, and in fact last weekend the second dispensary opened in Healdsburg, which is Jane, which is in here. And then there's a number of other new places have opened in this development, which Tizar is a great restaurant if you ever are looking for somewhere and that's a little bit different. Their owner is Hungarian, so you get a lot of goulash and just slightly different food than a lot of the places in downtown Healdsburg. So that concludes our tour. We're actually ending it at Mill District. So I'm standing in the park of Mill District here with the apartments behind me, which are 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bed, and then you've got the penthouses on the top story. These are still available, and I think they're about 60% sold through. So they've definitely, plenty of choice. You are obviously right on Healdsburg Avenue here, but literally the square is, a 5-minute walk in that direction. So yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed the tour. We've tried to show you around some of the key neighborhoods within the city limits, as well as taking a bit of a trip out on Dry Creek Valley, out on Chiquita, just to give you a flavor of what all the different options are, whether you want rural living or city living. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe. So I'm David Hargreaves, one half of BruingtonHargreaves, and we're one of the top teams in Sonoma County. Obviously this video has been all about Healdsburg, but we cover Windsor, Santa Rosa, Sebastopol and Sonoma, and we've always got a really good handle on any properties that are coming up on the market. So if you are interested in finding something that isn't potentially on the market yet, then please do get in touch. Email us at david@BruingtonHargreaves.com, and yeah, we'd love to hear from you.